You're listening to Four Things to Know, a WCCO daily news podcast.
Today is Friday, June 9th. I'm Maria Lizignoli.
And I'm Johnny Connor. Thanks for listening to Four Things to Know.
Number one, we're continuing to follow the latest developments and updates on a fatal shooting by an ICE agent. That shooting killed 37-year-old Renee Good. On Wednesday, the mother of three was killed in her car when she was shot. We've learned she recently moved to South Minneapolis from Kansas City with her wife and youngest son. She was born in Colorado, making her a U.S. citizen. Records show she had never been charged with anything more serious than a parking ticket. Her ex-husband says Good had dropped off her son at elementary school before the shooting and was headed home. He said he never knew Good to participate in any kind of protests. Donations are pouring in for Renee Good. A GoFundMe set up for her wife and son raised over $1.5 million. That GoFundMe has now been closed, but the organizer thanked everyone who donated, saying the funds will be placed in a trust for the family. They also encouraged you to support others in need if you're looking to donate, saying they're grateful for the support. Now we want to take you to 34th and Portland, where the shooting happened. Early this morning, the city of Minneapolis says they began removing a barricade that protesters set up at Renee Good's memorial. The city says blocking streets is a serious concern for fire and emergency medical response because it can delay response times and restrict access for emergency vehicles. And they said residents raised concerns and requests for removal. The city will not remove the memorial created and maintained by community members. They say they will continue to keep the area around these memorials clear and clean. And over at the Whipple Federal Building, which was the scene of serious clashes between agents and protesters yesterday, workers began laying down concrete barriers. The barriers have created a much more concentrated area for activists and protesters.
Number two, many metro schools are closed today, including Minneapolis public schools. We also heard from Fridley Public Schools late last night. They said they chose to cancel school today because, quote, so many in our community are scared, unsure if it is safe to travel or leave home, and are experiencing very real trauma, end quote. Not all are saying why they are closed today, though. We did get a statement from the Department of Homeland Security about what happened when federal agents arrived at Roosevelt High School in Minneapolis. Just listen to what that sounded like. Here's what we know what played out just hours after Wednesday's deadly shooting. In a video sent to WCCO, which you can see for yourself on our website, someone throws a snowball at an ICE agent. Moments later, it looks like an ICE agent sprays a chemical irritant towards the group. Here's what one parent, Melissa Locke, had to say about what happened.
I never thought that we would live in a time like this. That's what goes through my head. And it makes me really, really sad for our kids.
Homeland Security says it was not targeting the school, students, or staff. They say Border Patrol agents were conducting immigration enforcement operations in the neighborhood when a U.S. citizen tried to stop them by ramming his vehicle into one of theirs. They say that led to a 5-mile chase that ended at the school. Homeland Security says someone who said he was a teacher assaulted a Border Patrol agent. That's when they say officers responded with targeted crowd control, but no tear gas was deployed. Governor Walz and the trade union Education Minnesota have demanded ICE stay away from Minnesota schools. They spoke earlier this morning, sharing the toll ICE's presence has had on students, educators, and the community. Here's more from Monica Byron, the union's president, and Chris Erickson, the president of the St. Cloud Education Association.
This is not a partisan issue. It's a moral one. We demand that ICE operations be kept away from schools so students, educators, and staff can learn and work in safety and peace.
Public education is a right, and every child in Minnesota deserves to attend a public school that is safe and welcoming. But that cannot happen as long as ICE remains in Minnesota. They need to leave our state, and they need to leave our schools now. They need to leave us alone.
Members of Education Minnesota also explain the price students are paying by not being in school during this time. They say these are days of learning that the kids will never get back. According to the educators, it's not only students who are afraid, but teachers and parents are living in fear as well. We also heard from Minneapolis public school families and educators today. John Lauritsen has that update.
Ice out was a message educators and families had here at Hiawatha Park this morning. Many of them talked about the fear and intimidation they have felt since ICE agents have showed up near or even at some schools in Minneapolis. Now, many of the people who were here, including kids, held signs that said ICE out and other signs with similar messages. Educators talked about organizing rides for kids of immigrant families because parents are afraid to leave the house right now. They also spoke about ICE's presence at Roosevelt High School, where they said a teacher was tackled by federal agents.
ICE is not here to keep us safe. They are here to wreak havoc and cause harm. ICE tears our families apart. ICE terrorizes our neighborhoods.
We keep us safe. ICE out of our schools, ICE out of Minneapolis, ICE out of Minnesota.
And before this press conference began this morning, they held a moment of silence for Renee Good. They also talked about this Day of Unity and what it means to them. And in this case, they say a lot of it has to do with holding their immigrant neighbors and families close during a very trying week.
Number 3. The Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension, or BCA, was originally assigned to investigate the killing of Renee Good with the FBI. But now, the FBI is working alone. It's something that Minneapolis city leaders are taking issue with, and today they're calling for a fair and transparent investigation. Today, leaders like Mayor Jacob Frey, city council members, and Minnesota lawmakers stood together at City Hall. They're asking for the BCA to have access to case materials, scene evidence, and investigative interviews that are necessary for a thorough and independent investigation. Lawmakers also spoke about the experience the city of Minneapolis has with these types of investigations. That's in the wake of the murder of George Floyd. They say if the investigation remains solely in the hands of the FBI, there's a fear a conclusion has already been drawn before the investigation begins. Here's more from Minnesota State Representative Aisha Gomez.
Do we want a legitimate investigation that pulls in the professionals of the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension who are trained to do this, who have done this over and over, who have the kind of local connections and local legitimacy that the FBI could just never have because they don't have that kind of presence here? Or are we going to have a discredited farce of an investigation?
Minnesota Senators Amy Klobuchar and Tina Smith have sent a joint letter to Attorney General Pam Bondi urging her to include the BCA. Today, Attorney General Keith Ellison and Hennepin County Attorney Mary Moriarty also spoke about the importance of the BCA being involved to ensure fairness and accountability.
Number 4, ICE agents continue to work across the Twin Cities detaining people. One took place in a very public way at a Target in Richfield.
What? How is this okay? No, answer the question.
The head of Border Patrol, Gregory Bovino, was there as federal agents arrested 2 Target workers yesterday. We are working to learn more about why they were detained. We also saw a new video today of an ICE arrest in Rochester. A KIMT News 3 crew captured video of ICE agents taking a man into custody outside their studios yesterday morning. When the news crew asked about the nature of allegations for the man arrested, an agent responded, quote, immigration. The mayor of Rochester, Kim Norton, says she was informally notified of the action. She also says she reached out to Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey. She says he is right in saying that people need to document from a safe distance and not to do anything to put themselves in danger. And as safety concerns grow, a local group is offering guidance. The Immigrant Defense Network offered what they call constitutional observer training. That's when someone is trained to document law enforcement activity in public spaces. Advocates and city leaders say videos that observers take play a crucial role in accountability, and they are seeing a rise in people wanting to get out and find ways to demonstrate after this week's shooting.
I think everyone is looking for a space where they can share feelings and figure out what to do. After what we have seen yesterday and after what we have seen before when ICE has been so aggressive arresting people.
Yesterday's training had over 400 attendees. The most important message was don't interfere and just record and document safely.
And now, here's more to know.
Last night's rain didn't stop people from protesting in South Minneapolis. Hundreds turned up to an intersection not far from where ICE shot Renee Good. Many expressed anger and sadness over the shooting while marching down Lake Street.
People are still waking up and kind of responding to the horror of what happened yesterday. More and more people will be coming out.
She had a family, she had kids, the whole 9 yards, so it's just a lot of pain,
We've seen protesters and observers detained by ICE over the last few days. We're now getting insight into what happens once you're in custody. One of those protesters was Connie Olson. He was detained and then released after a few hours. He says after seeing another ICE arrest happen, he stood in front of a van and hit his hand on the hood of a federal vehicle.
It was very evidently like the wrong choice in some ways, because I felt immediately that I had put my friend that I was there with in danger. They pushed my friend aside, they tackled me to the ground, kind of drugged me against the pavement a little bit to kind of get me under control. They cuffed me and then put me in the back of a car. And by that time I didn't have my glasses and everything. It was really disorienting. It was really weird, not what I expected. I think I expected people in rows and people in handcuffs and kind of an official militant presence. I've been calling them a radical paramilitary group that's terrorizing our city, but then it felt more like just guys hanging out, and they all have guns and they all have handcuffs.
Connie says he was driven around for about 45 minutes, then taken to the Whipple building where he sat in the back of a car. He says he was released 2 hours later and told he was free to go.
We know ICE arrests are happening all over the country, and right now we're working to find out more details after authorities say federal agents shot and wounded 2 people in Portland, Oregon. The U.S. Department of Homeland Security says U.S. Border Patrol agents were conducting a targeted vehicle stop involving suspected Venezuelan members of a gang. In a post on X, the agency says that when agents identified themselves, the driver attempted to run over the officers. It says an agent fired a defensive shot as the driver and passenger tried to get away. We know the victims are a married couple, and federal authorities say both the driver and the passenger are here illegally. Now Oregon authorities are investigating, and Portland Mayor Keith Wilson has called ICE to halt all operations until an investigation can take place.
Here in Minnesota, Governor Tim Walz has proclaimed today a day of unity. He's calling for acts of service in honor of Renee Nicole Good. Walz is also pleading with Minnesotans to keep protests peaceful. He has authorized the Minnesota National Guard, making sure they're ready to support local and state law enforcement if needed. The Minnesota State Patrol has also mobilized 85 members of its mobile response team.
The Minnesota Timberwolves held a moment of silence before last night's game for Renee Good.
We are saddened by the tragedy that occurred yesterday in our Minneapolis community in the loss of Renee Nicole Good. Our thoughts are with her family and everyone affected, and our hearts are with our community as we hope for healing and unity during this challenging time. Please join us in a moment of silence. Thank you.
We are following the latest developments on this ICE shooting and the federal crackdown happening in our state. You can stay with WCCO right here, online and on air for continuing coverage. We will let you know those details as soon as they happen.
We know it's been a heavy week. Thank you all for listening to this episode of 4 Things to Know. Have a good weekend. Take care of yourselves. With Johnny Connor, I'm Maria Lizignoli, and we're here with the news you need every weekday afternoon by 3 o'clock.
Listen to 4 Things to Know, a WCCO daily news podcast, wherever you get your podcasts.